In Luke 10, we encounter an old familiar story. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. But for this week's sermon, I want us to focus on the question that the legal expert asked that began the story of the Good Samaritan, that actually was the cause of Jesus telling the story of the Good Samaritan. The question was, and who is my neighbor? And who is my neighbor? And for those who are Christian, we are reminded that throughout Scripture more than 2,000 times, we see that God is concerned for those who are poor, on the margins, and vulnerable. In Luke 4, we see Jesus as he begins his ministry in the synagogue. He reads from the Old Testament Scripture that says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor." And who is my neighbor? We see that throughout his ministry, John Wesley loved the poor. He often stayed in their hovels. He shared their food. And we know that every activity of the early Methodist movement was influenced by the impact that it would have on the poor. Whether it was the venue for the preaching, the composition and agenda of the classes and bands, the institutions formed, even the style of the preaching houses, which were to be plain and inexpensive. Wesley would challenge the Methodists of his day and each of us to remember that our neighbor is the poor. And our response is more than. And it's important that we do engage by giving money to ministry, but to follow Jesus and Wesley's example of living side by side with the poor. And this week we will look at that question in worship. And who is my neighbor?